Hello dear students, I hope you are doing well. Today we are going to talk about Manohar Malgaonkar and his short story Hush. Now what is there in the Hush and what is the background of Manohar Malgaonkar and how Manohar Malgaonkar is important in Indian writing in English. So we will talk about his background, then we will talk about the plot and themes there in the Hush short story and all the characters. So let's start with Manohar Malgaonkar. Here you can see we are talking about the short story called Hush. Hush is a very important short story to understand because Manohar Malgaonkar has written so many short stories, a collection of short stories, and also he composed novels. So let's talk about Manohar Malgaonkar. Before that, let's understand what kind of questions there may be in your examinations, because examinations are coming, and here some kind of questions I have just written down for the reference. So these kind of questions may be appeared in your examination, not exactly the same, but the question will be alike. Now you can see that here we have very first question: what is the prominent theme of the story Hush? Now this question is very obvious because it talks about the theme. What kind of theme or themes are there in the short story called Hush? Second question is, how does the author use the technique of cinematic montage? Now this cinematic montage is a different kind of techniques generally used in literature. Sometimes you can find this technique in poetry too, because here you find the cinematic background, or we can say that a different types of scenery is displayed in the setting or in the background. So this technique is used in this story, and how does the author uses this? We have to answer this question. Third question may be like this: comment on the characters in the short story Hush. Now you have to comment on the characters. And the fourth question may be like this: corruption is deeply rooted in the life of people. Explain with reference to the story Hush. Now with this question you can understand that what is the theme, main theme of this short story. Obviously it is corruption. So how we can solve these questions? Let's see. Very first, let's understand the background of Manohar Malgaonkar. So starting with the background of Manohar Malgaonkar, we can find here he was born in Jagalpet village, Karwar district, in a rich Maharashtrian Brahmin family of Belgaum. Actually this family is of Maharashtrian but living in Belgaum, and near Belgaum we find that in Karwar district he was born in Jagalpet. There are some scholars who say that he was born in Mumbai, but he was not born in Mumbai but Jagalpet, because his early childhood was spent there in the Jagalpur. Now here you see he was born in 1913 and died in 2010. He was educated at Belgaum, Dharwad, and he graduated from Mumbai University, or University of Mumbai. Later he joined army. Now you can look at his career graph. He joined army and there he became lieutenant colonel. So this is a key post in the army. He became lieutenant colonel, and again he also was fond of writing and reading. So we can find that he had a profound influence of Indian and Western writers on him, and also we find the influence of Indian texts like the Ramayana, Mahabharata, and Vedas on Manohar Malgaonkar. Sometimes these influence we can find in his writing too. So this is some background of Manohar Malgaonkar. Let's move next. Now here we have some of his famous work. Manohar Malgaonkar has composed novels, short stories, essays. Then he also wrote some articles in newspapers at that time, and also he composed a play. So there are a vast body of literature on his name. Here we will understand him as a novelist or short story writer. Very first we will think about his novels. Here are his novels. He written almost 10 novels. And very first here we have Distant Drum, published in 1960. Second we have Combat of Shadows, 1962. Third novel he composed was The Princess, 1963. Fourth we have A Bend in the Ganges, 1964. Then we have number 5, Spy in Amber, 1971. Number 6, The Devil's Wind, 1972. Number 7, Open Season, 1978. And number 8, Shalimar. These are his famous novels. Now here you can see The Princess. It is a novel by Manohar Malgaonkar, and this is the picture, or this is the cover of the Princess novel. Next two novels here we have Bandicoot Run, which is published in 1986, and the last one we have The Garland Keepers, 1986. He also composed some non-fictional works, among which very first is very famous The Men Who Killed Gandhi, 1978, and this is the cover photo of The Men Who Killed Gandhi by Manohar Malgaonkar. Now this non-fiction is very important in this time, because this is a very, we can say that, strange time where you cannot speak loudly in the public against the government, and we have some restrictions, and someone is watching or someone is just observing your activities, and here you cannot directly oppose the government or the rules of government, or you can raise voice against government. In this time we have this kind of works, The Men Who Killed Gandhi, which becomes very important. If you want to know more about Manohar Malgaonkar, you can read very first, because this is the special issue dedicated to Manohar Malgaonkar, and it is edited by Usha Bande and published by Sahitya Academy, which is the central body of letters in India, a very important body, Sahitya Academy, and there are 142 pages in this issue, Manohar Malgaonkar by Usha Bande. If you want to know more about Manohar Malgaonkar, you can read this issue. Just type in the Google Manohar Malgaonkar and you will find this PDF by Sahitya Academy. So this is the information that you can have, and hence this works becomes very important, The Men Who Killed Gandhi. Second non-fictional book we have Cue from the Inner Voices, The Choice Before Big Business. Now this book belongs to the field of business, or the subject matter of this book is different. Again here we have one play on the name of Manohar Malgaonkar, which is Line of Mars, published in 1978. Now let's talk about his other writings. For example, anthologies of short stories. We have three anthologies on his name. Very first, A Toast in Warm Wine, 1974. Second, Bombay Beware, 1975. Third, we have Rubble Tumble, 1977. And again we have some historical writings on his name. Very first we have The Sea Hawk or Kanhoji Angre, 1959. Second we have Porous of Devas, 1963, and number third we have Chhatrapatis of Kolhapur, 1971. Now actually if you look at Manohar Malgaonkar, you will find that he was directly connected to a royal family of Devas, and hence he written Porous of Devas, because his grandfather was there in the court of this royal family called Devas. So he was direct connection to the family. So these are some of the works composed by Manohar Malgaonkar. Now let's talk about the characters in the story Hush. There are 5 characters in the story Hush. Very first character we have Ranga Shinai, who is a Goa smuggler of gold bars there in the Molem. Molem is a small village or town there in the border of Goa, and all the events happen there in the Molem. So Gopal Rane is a policeman or constable. Third character Dhawan is the new superintendent of police there appointed, and we have Gomati Prasad again, who arranges all the smuggling of the gold bars, and we have Salkar, this character. So these are 5 characters, very important characters in the story Hush. Let's talk about Hush is taken from an anthology called Best Indian Stories, which is edited by Khushwant Singh. So there may be a question, from which anthology this short story is taken. Then you have to write down as Indian Stories, Best Indian Stories, edited by Khushwant Singh. Now here let's talk about the story and plot of the story, short story Hush. Now there are 5 scenes in the short story, and we will explain all the 5 scenes. Very first scene here we have what happens in the first scene. There is the deal of smuggling of 800 gold bars, and this deal is arranged by Ranga Shenai and Gopal Rane. But what happens in this deal of 800 gold bars smuggling? This is the smuggling. So here Gopal Rane, a police constable, says that let us seize the 200 bars from your 800 deal, because the new SP is a very strict person and he wanted his name in the newspaper and he wanted some promotion, and so that we have to seize your 200 bars. And there they fix this deal. First they will seize or capture 200 bars and then their business will be smoother, or they will have their business on a good line. So this is the deal set in Ranga Shenai, who is the smuggler, and here we have Gopal Rane, the policeman. In the next scene, scene second, we find this scene is set in a hotel in Goa, and there appears next character, who is Gomati Prasad. So Gomati Prasad is a person who arranges all these smugglings, and he takes or buys the gold and again distributes to other vendors there. And we find that this deal happens in Ranga and Gomati Prasad sipping Ganges water. So Gomati Prasad always carries the Ganges water with him and he sips this Ganges water. So Prasad is worried about what has been shown there in the scene. There we find that Prasad is worried about his daughter's marriage, and he says that the dowry has been increased a lot and he has to settle the dowry with his son-in-law, and he has to give Mercedes to the son-in-law, and for that he must finalize the deal with Ranga Shenai, and there they finalize the deal. So this is the second scene, and in the second scene we have another deal. Next we have third scene, and in the third scene again we find a bargain between Salkar and the Shenai or Ranga Shenai. So this bargain is between Shenai and Salkar. Salkar is the man who carries jackets of gold bars, but at the initial he hesitates or he is reluctant to carry the jacket of gold bars or smuggle for Ranga Shenai. But Ranga Shenai turns him from reluctance to work for him, and he says that I will give you double payment for this trip, and I will give you double bars of 2 jackets to carry all the bars. So there are 200 gold bars and he carries 200 gold bars, and he doubles the payment of Salkar, and then Salkar thinks that he must work for Shenai because there was a problem with Salkar. His wife was pregnant and the doctor has advised him to stay with his wife because the delivery is difficult according to doctors, and hence he was reluctant. But Ranga Shenai becomes successful in making him work for Shenai. So here he leaves her wife and goes for the smuggling of 200 gold bars. What happens in the next scene? In the fourth scene we find that this scene is set on the Ghats, and it was the day of the seizure, or it was the day of capture, when police comes, Gopal Rane and other policemen come and captures their 200 gold bars, 2 jackets which was over by Selchar, and this happens there. And there we find this word hush money. Hush means bribing. So this word is particularly used to bribe or as a bribe money. So hush also is given there to the police. Still, according to the previous plan, Ranga Shenai, the plan between Ranga Shenai and Gopal Rane, they captures or seizes the 200 bars with Salkar, and Salkar caught there. In the next scene, or in the last scene, here we have last scene, we find there Salkar is arrested there. And what happens next? Next we find Dhawan earns a promotion and gold bars at the Gomati Prasad. Then Gomati Prasad gives Mercedes to his son-in-law, and here we find a turn in the short story. Who is the son-in-law of this Gomati Prasad? No one, no other than Dhawan. So Dhawan, the superintendent of police, was the son-in-law of Gomati Prasad. Now you can see that how these events are interwoven or rotates around the gold or the gold bars or the smuggling, and all are involved in this smuggling, right from the constable to the top authorities like Dhawan or ESP, and again we have a merchant called Gomati Prasad there to arrange all these things. And Gomati Prasad, we find that gives Mercedes to the his son-in-law, that is Dhawan. So in this way all scenes happens there, and this kind of we can find a hall in the short story, and all characters or all are involved in the hush money or in smuggling. Now there was a question on technique of cinematic montage. What is that? That is nothing but the scenic atmosphere described in the short story. Again, cinematic technique is used. If you look at the scene which is set in the hotel, from there Ranga Shenai and Gomati Prasad just looks over there on the Arabic Sea, and they find it was a very fine, serene atmosphere, and this has been described, and all the story progresses in dialogues. A lot of dialogues are used in the story, and these dialogues supports this cinematic technique. Dialogues and behavior of characters we find there in the short story, and this is a kind of adventurous short story. If you look at the scene set on the ghats, there Salkar just runs with two jackets and 200 gold bars, which is way a lot, and there we find it is a kind of adventure made by Salkar, and all these things happen, and this adds to the cinematic atmosphere, cinematic technique in the short story. So this is the scenic technique used in the short story. Now what kind of themes are there in the short story? It's very obvious that very first theme we find smuggling or bribing, because hush, this word is used for the bribing or the money which is used to bribe the officers. Second important theme, corruption. So smuggling is nothing but a kind of corruption we find, and we also have the theme of nexus of police officers, smugglers and common people there in the short story, and this is a very prominent thing in the short story, how all are involved in the smuggling or in the corruption, and they have a very we can say that serene bond among all these smugglers or all these people, and they have mutual understanding how they just draw out their events or how they carry out their smuggling. Everything has been described in a we can say that in a very smooth manner, and this is the nexus among all these people. So this is all about the short story Hush. I hope you understood the short story. If you have any problem, any query, you can comment below in the comment section. I will resolve your problem. So thank you very much for watching the short story Hush. Let's meet in the next video.